Happy Tuesday, eighth graders. We are going to get started on our Western or Westward expansion notes. This is one of the packets that you did get on Friday if you were here that last day of school. If not, I did include the PDF on the Google Classroom. Hopefully, you saw my announcement when I said that I accidentally made a little bit of a mistake. If you look at your Western expansion page on the second on the it's the back of the first page, it's blank and it should not be. So that it was an accident that I had rushing to scan a bunch of stuff for you guys. I forgot to hit double side. So pretty much for today, we're just gonna fill out the front of this page. There's pretty minimal writing, so it should be pretty easy to follow along. And then when I do what should be on the back of the notes for tomorrow, I'll just have you guys kind of sit and listen, kind of watch the video as I go, and just kind of pick up what I'm saying from that. And then we'll go back to regular, where it says Trail of Tears on the third page. That should be exactly where we pick up on either the second half of tomorrow or maybe a little bit on Wednesday. And then, of course, the back is gone as well. So we'll just take it by ear. Please fill out the notes that you do have. And if you want to jot down a couple like bullet points from talking, I know it's not the typical fill in the blank spots kind of situation, but we can handle this. It's not that big of a deal. So for today, I have the bell ringer for you. I just want to make sure that you saw my announcement with the homework. Same situation. I was in a rush and did not copy the back of the packet that I originally had, so you're missing every other page. So look at the PDF that I put on Google Classroom. It's the conflicts over land. There's 13 questions, so hopefully you're kind of chunking it and doing a couple a day. It is due on Friday. And just as a reminder, all the things that we've been doing this week and we did on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of last week. So, pretty much since we've been on this whole digital learning coronavirus extended break, will be all these grades will be put on quarter 4. So, you won't be seeing those in the grade book. If you need to turn in any missing work, you need to do that today by midnight. I'm putting zeros in tomorrow. So, make sure any quarter 3 work, get it in, bump up your grade a little bit. Thankfully, I mean, from some of you that would have struggled with that vocab final, that is not hurting your grade at all. So we should have higher grades for a class average than typical. But I promise you, one of those reading packets like could at least bump up a low C to a mid C to a low B. I mean, it's pretty easy. Make sure you're doing that. And then today we're going to do this video for the first page of Western expansion notes. Pause during the slides if you need to copy something down or I'm talking too fast. And then the exit ticket is the President's Edition, which is something that I made. So let me show you real quick right here the exit ticket for today. I just want you to look at kind of who is in charge during this Western expansion, but I thought we'd also do a little bit of review. So I have 7 presidents down here. I have a timeline right here, and I just want you to drag the picture up into the frame. So, I mean, hopefully we all know George Washington is the first president. So you would put his picture right there in the frame, and then you would do the rest with these. So um, if you need to look something up, a couple of these elections will be in your notes previously, but obviously some of you don't keep your notes. So if you need to look it up, that's fine. As long as you're using that muscle memory to drag a picture to a specific date, and then you can look above it to see where they were on the presidential timeline. Were they the first, the second, the third? I just want you to keep that in mind and kind of in the back of your head. I think it is important to know, as somebody that lives in America, potentially who at least the first 10 presidents were, if not the first 7. So these are the ones that we're going to be focusing on right here. The War of 1812 is right here. That was during the presidency of, oh, I'm not going to fill it in because then you guys will know it. So let's look at 5, 6, and 7 right now. And then also our I can statement today, just going back to tying this to the standards for the Ohio Department of Education, is to look at the significance of the Monroe Doctrine, which we're going to talk about here in a second. So, President James Monroe, after the War of 1812, James Monroe was elected in 1816. So, first of all, that is one president that you have down for that exit ticket. You're welcome. So he was the president, followed by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, and he was referred to as having a presidency of like an era of good feelings. So this was a period during a presidency, during specifically his 4-year term, where things were like kind of fizzling down. There was not very much political fighting. We saw a lot of Federalists and Democratic Republicans going against whether we should go to war with England, whether we should not, whether we should stay out of foreign affairs. That was a lot that was happening during James Madison and Thomas Jefferson. So James Monroe had a much more peaceful term. He was very patriotic. The national spirit or the patriotism of this time was really, really high. People were very much supporting their government, supporting their country. And this was because we had just kind of flexed all over the Europeans. So, yes, I just used that term. I'm proud of it. So, after the War of 1812, America was kind of riding a very egotistical high at this point. So, the first president to tour the country since Washington, since America was not as chaotic and crazy and in times of struggle and conflict as it typically was, James Monroe did travel outside of the United States, or did travel within the United States to just kind of see what was happening along both the North and the South during the states that already seceded into the United States of America. So to build that relationship with the states and kind of show that it was like a unified front. He was also responsible for the Monroe Doctrine, which was a statement by Monroe in a speech that warned European countries of any new colonization in North and South America. So this was like serving as a warning, saying, stay out of America, stay out of America's territory, stay on your side of the pond, hypothetically, pond being the ocean. Because at this point, America had just taken over territory of Florida from Spain. So at this point, the expansion of the United States is growing, and Monroe is warning that we are clearly strong military wise, and we have the funds at this point and the strategies or the tactics to conquer anyone that tries to step on our territory. So stay off of it. So McCulloch versus Maryland in 1819. This was one of the first major events that had two pretty powerful impacts. One of them was that it made the bank a part of the national government. So it became the national bank. So the state of Maryland tried to tax a branch of the Bank of the United States in Baltimore to show that the bank was unconstitutional. At this point, before 1819, if you remember, Alexander Hamilton was the one that suggested a national bank to strengthen the funds of this new government that was being created as America, and they were trying to find a way to absorb the debt in order to create their own system, their own federal strength, their own monetary organization after separating from Britain. So the idea of a bank or a Bank of the United States was originally Alexander Hamilton's. So, and this was happening during the presidency of George Washington, about 30 years before. So, the branch manager, who was James McCulloch, refused to pay the tax as it was a federal bank. So, Baltimore, the city inside of Maryland, tried to tax this specific bank, and the manager of the bank said, "We are not paying that. That is not happening." So this went to the Supreme Court to decide whether or not this was constitutional or not constitutional based on judicial review. So, in a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court said that the states had no power to interfere with federal institutions and that states cannot pass any laws that violate a federal law. So, with that, the second pretty impactful thing that this led to was that the bank was officially deemed constitutional. So, for a while, people were against the bank becoming a part of the Constitution or saying that it was unconstitutional. But now, this official decision, this official court ruling says that the Bank of the United States, the national bank, is a part of federal law. It is considered a federal institution, and it will not be taxed by specific states separately. So, the Chief Justice that was responsible for this was John Marshall, who stated through the necessary and proper clause of the Constitution allows the Bank of the United States to exist and would serve as a precedent for the expansion of federal power. So, what we talked about precedent, saying that that was going to be an example for the future. So, the precedent and the national bank, and obviously continue to work because we're in 2020, and the National Bank of the United States or the Bank of the US or national bank or federal bank, these are all things that come into play. We all use like all these specific branches like Huntington and Chase and whatever else branches out there. They are all under one specific Bank of America. So that is kind of something that shows the strength in the government and how that has led to the precedent even today. So the election of 1824, there was four major candidates that all were pretty much equally successful. So it was John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Henry Clay, and Henry Clay should sound familiar because he was one of the war hawks during the War of 1812, and we were talking about some of the battles that were fought during then in the last set of notes with John C. Calhoun and William Harris Crawford. So these four gentlemen, two of them will become United States presidents at one point. So hold on, we'll stay tuned for that. So there was no candidate that secured a majority, so the decision went to the House of Representatives, but only the top three candidates could be chosen from the House of Representatives. So Henry Clay was out. So we have three left. It's John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, and William Harris Crawford. So Henry Clay was actually the Speaker of the House, which is one of the highest positions within the House of Representatives, and he put his support behind Adams because he was completely against Andrew Jackson. So he supported John Quincy Adams, and to kind of reciprocate that support, and which led to him becoming the next president of the United States after James Monroe. Adams made him the Secretary of State. So the Secretary of State, if you can remember, has the power or is the position in administration where they have the relations with foreign countries. So it's those foreign relations. Andrew Jackson would rally his supporters during the next election, the election of 1828, to become the president after John Quincy Adams. So at this point, we have talked about three presidents that are on that exit ticket. We've talked about James Monroe, we've talked about John Quincy Adams, and we've talked about Andrew Jackson. So right now, that should be an easy way to eliminate three of those positions. And then, of course, we know that George Washington was the first president. So do your best to not cheat and figure out which presidents were in those other spots. I believe in you. So I know this was a quick recording for today, but that is all I have for today. So don't forget tomorrow, if you just want to look at the back of, if you want to use that blank page that's on the back of your paper packet, if you do have this packet, or if you just want to get a piece of line paper, we're just going to go through Andrew Jackson's presidency and his struggle with the Native Americans, which we talk a lot about in the conflicts over land reading packet. And then we're going to talk about another event that you should be pretty familiar with based on the vocab, which is the Indian Removal Act of 1830. So those are the things that we're going to be talking about. We're also going to go into Trail of Tears and Manifest Destiny. So looking ahead, that is what we're going to be doing. And as we move on from today, I want you to think about why that Monroe Doctrine was important and why that threat from a president of the United States, James Monroe, to tell foreign countries to back off the territory, how that might spiral into what's coming next. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. Don't forget to email me if you need anything. Today, I was not able to do the Google Meet because I have a Google Meet meeting with Mr. Jones and a couple of the sixth grade teachers, but I will be on Google Meet tomorrow at 10:30 as always. So hopefully I will hear from you guys soon. All right. I will see you guys later.